Now, the rest of the story.
The stuff we're making isn't the highest of quality, but Dad and Britt are loading up what little bit I'm making out here, which for being late season second cut, it's yielding better than expected. Which the bar wasn't set very high, but more or less just getting what we can get, and this stuff will be fed to wean calves. This is that second cut grass, which with not much rain all year, it'll be nice for them to start chewing on, and before we get them bumped up to eating a little bit more alfalfa in their diet. But overall, my parents are sitting really good for feed. Myself and my brother, well, Ryan's sitting really good too. There's leftovers of a deer, somebody's meal. Overall, I'm hoping that the valley is gonna pretty much do exactly what this stuff is doing, where it's not very tall, but it's thick down lower to the ground. Granted, I don't have as much clover down at the valley anymore like this stuff has, so it's more of your stereotypical grasses, and hopefully we'll get something a little bit more worthwhile out of it. My broad statement goal for the valley is going to be about 200 bales is what I'm really looking for. If I can get 200 bales off that down there, plus some other material that I'm going to be making, you know, I got some alfalfa that I'll be making. I'm hoping that I'll be going into this winter sitting really well. I sold some feeders yesterday, and as of right now, and a little bit of the sale that I did watch, I'm feeling pretty good about how those 4 steers of mine had performed. I mean, cattle prices are doing really good, and people are actually saying, in regards to how high the feeder market's going to go, it's kind of 50-50 both ways as to whether or not it's gonna keep going up, if it's gonna go down. I'm hearing more of just the logical arguments of it can't go up for forever. I mean, I've heard $4 feeder calves. Well, $4 feeder calves is $2,000 for a 500-pound steer, and I don't think my stomach could handle ever being the person to pay for $2,000 steers. But the 569 is running like a champ. It's a really good match for the 82. I'm going to be putting the 569 on the 7920 to go down to the valley, so stay tuned for that. My intentions are, well, I just need to get the 569 off this tractor, and seems how the 79 is already set up with the ag leader monitor in it already. I just need to get a wire from my agronomist, my tech guy, and I'll have an ISO bus connector that I can hook into the wiring harness for the ag leader monitor. Yep, distracted, otherwise that'd be a lot more level. And I'll be running 79 on the 569, making the hay down at the valley. The 79's actually, did that bale take off on me? No, it did not. It thought about it though, but boy is she crooked. The 79's gonna end up on the other disc bind for cutting the hay down there also. And the 46, I'd like to get the duals on. And I'm gonna already got the 3-point mount on it, or 3-point hitch on it for hooking the gooseneck trailer up so we can haul hay with it. And I'm kind of hoping in the next week and a half we'll be able to say that we are done with making hay for 2023. I don't believe up to this point I've filmed anything with the combine. But the combine's ready to go to the field. As far as I'm concerned, I just did the air pressure in the tires this morning, which is one of the last things I really think to do. That is until we fold the grain tank extensions up, because I can't get it in and out of the machine shed with the tank extensions up, and I got to clean off the back window from the cab into the grain tank because that is completely dusted over. Gearbox I have to check from the in the grain tank, and then we got to set up that vertical auger. But once we have it up, we can't get it back in the machine shed, and seems how we are, well, we're a couple weeks away from harvesting yet, which I'm fine with because I got a bunch of rando stuff that I'd like to work on yet. And I imagine once we get dropped into harvest, it'll pretty much be go until we get it done. But I am planning on, oops, sorry, I'm trying to multitask. I'm already planning on having more of our corn harvested in October this year versus last year, where we were looking at Thanksgiving before we finished up the last of it. I'm not expecting that to be quite the issue this year. So that's what that stuff looks like. 64-inch bales with 3 rolls, 3 wraps of net wrap on it. Brittany isn't giving us the birds, so I think we're good there. And for being late September, this is about the first sun the stuff has really gotten on it. And well, I guess we'll have about a load of hay off of it, which is fine because at least we have room for it anyway. I mean, it's a lot better than being in a position where we gotta worry about having to actually buy hay. I mean, I did sell a fair amount of hay back in June for not like highest record prices I've ever sold for, but I did sell them for within a few dollars a ton from it, so I'm pretty happy for that anyway. And it put me in the situation where I'm really banking on my last cutting for the year to really add up. But what we're going to see is how is the valley going to perform after everything it's had thrown at it, plus the fact that much like this field, it's only going to have 2 cuttings off of it, and that'll be it. So I'm hoping what we'll find down there is it might not be super duper tall where it's 6 feet tall in the past, but going through and getting it baled and finding out that it was shorter but thicker. And with that, I'm going to let you go for at least this part, and I'll catch up with you later. Well, remember when I said the grass was doing so good? Well, the grass outperformed the yield on the alfalfa in leaps and bounds. I got off that 6-acre field, I ended up getting 8 bales off of this, oh, what is it here, I think it's 9 acres. I got 2 3/4. So it's kind of lackluster. All that time, energy, and resources just got used up for nothing, I guess. But 11 bales is still 11 bales. I mean, that last one was close enough to a full one. But I gotta go clean this baler off because, as you can see from the back window, that was pretty well clean when I started. All that dust that's been built up. So I'm gonna go through. I'm not gonna get carried away greasing it and everything because you're supposed to give it so much grease per hour or whatever, per running hour. And I'm just gonna do a general just go over on it. Feeling better with how the valley could potentially perform, seeing how that grass out there did. But to be fair, the alfalfa out here, that was the 3rd cutting. So I mean, it had to produce, it had more expectations of it with the same amount of rain everything else has gotten, that it only had to produce off 2 cuttings. All right, I'm heading home. And this is the waterway grass we're feeding them right now. As you can tell, you happen to clip some corn plants, and that's exactly what she's going for. But holding its color, I can definitely tell my camera's picking that up. And essentially like reed canary. But I think you guys can tell by looking at my cows, they are as far away from malnourished as you can get. And honestly, even though I'm not feeding them the top end quality feed, I mean, let's face it, these guys are never getting dairy quality stuff. I think these guys are actually just a touch spoiled. So doing really well, doing the 3 feeders. I don't have my feed bunk set up yet. Gonna do a very hard push to try to get that done here within the week or so. I just gotta go get a couple gates and a couple legs. I got a couple more posts I gotta anchor down, and with my steers gone now, I can let my cows in on either side of the bunk. And I'm looking at these guys. I was planning on weaning them off November 1st. That's currently still the plan. These are actually my 3 smallest calves right here, 1, 2, 3. And there's Darla. But partly wondering about just pulling them off the cow here, letting the cows dry up, recover, recuperate, and start giving these guys a little bit of grain. What I could actually start doing this year, I'm just not time-wise, I just can't get around to it. But what I could actually do is for next year set myself up and putting a calf panel so my calves can actually walk through the calf panel and actually throw some grain in where those feeder calves were for next year. That's something I'm definitely going to be looking into doing. So we got mud. Not much for bugs. We actually had a bunch of grasshopper damage on the corn at home, but see, as of late, not much insect damage. If you look down the plant, it gives you a history of what it's been dealing with. Okay, well, early on there, it was getting chewed on, but then as of late, the bugs have been leaving it alone. This down here and then the lower part of the farm is where a lot of my attention is at. It's the material I do not want it to get ruined. By ruined, I mean I just don't want it to get rained on. And for how dry we are, I don't think it would really hurt it that much. I have some hay and grass on the ground right now that I should probably go look at. But it looks like there's a chance of rain throughout this upcoming weekend, and I would like to wait until that is passed. And it's raining now, and that'll put me to about the middle of September, and by then they're actually calling for mostly sunny after next Tuesday, which they weren't. They're calling for pretty much a change to the cloudiness and overcast, which does a terrible job of getting anything dry. If I get 7 to 10 days of good drying weather, good September weather, sun is a big one. I mean, it doesn't have to get super duper hot out, but 70s and sunshine with a light breeze, which is what they're calling for at the moment. We'll get down here. Dad and I will come down and knock this down, the whole farm from here all the way over to the second valley, and I'll come down the next day. I'll get it tedded out, let it sit for a day or two, and we'll be working on hauling it home. I was going to try to I'll probably see if Dale will come down and help, which I'm sure he will if he can. The goal was to actually get more cuttings off this than we did this year, but weather didn't really help. But my goal would ideally be another 300 bales, which would really outpace what first crop did. I don't think it'll do it, just for what the bench looks like, because about a third of this farm, it just doesn't do anything after first cut. And I'm looking really intently at, I didn't do it this year, which I'm grateful because we didn't have the moisture, but taking first cut off next year and then coming down, disking down the bench ground and that old pasture, and then direct seeding alfalfa into it and trying to get an alfalfa stand on it. At least that way I can make some use out of alfalfa. This, whatever this is coming up, which is clover and just sporadic grasses that happen to survive over the years, but just to get that so it's doing something. I mean, this from the bottom of the hills all the way out, I like this. This is what I want. The second cut grass, I mean, my cows will do very well on this. I'm perfectly fine with it. And getting some alfalfa on at least a third of the farm, either to potentially sell or to mix in with my feed ration, because I do like putting in about 1 bale of alfalfa to every 2 bales of grass, and gives my cattle the energy they need. We don't have to worry about calves here for October, November, December I think is actually when I have 2 cows that are due. After that, it'll be March 23rd to May 23rd to look forward to seeing how the bulls worked this year for next year. Hoping for a lot of calves. It's more or less just trying to get through the rest of this year unscathed. Yeah, and just in closing for down here, I know I'm doing a lot of videos about the valley, at least I feel like I have been, but to justify my reasoning for doing that is I'm just trying to keep a visual record of what I'm doing down here, and albeit in no small part to the fact that we've been in a drought this year, and it's allowed me to come through and rehabilitate this section of the valley, and do have some broadleaves, weeds coming in. Too late to care about them now. I mean, it's the 6th of September, and about the best thing we could have for this down here is I'm going to go through and I'm going to have a blast doing it. I really am, because the landowners have said they've done it since way back when. They used to be able to farm from the river clear over to the hillside, and I'll actually be able to do that this year, minus the little deer habitat right there. I'm not feeling super confident about that. And the best thing that'll happen is when we go through, we're going to cut it, windrow it. It'll expose the ground, get all this material off, so if it is a little soft, which is, you know, it's muddy through here, I'll go through and get it tedded out, so all the material that is cut will be able to dry out the best it can. And then when we go through with that rhino rake, just by design, it's kind of like a thatching machine, and it'll pick up all these old cattail and all the residue. The bales I get through here will just be cow feed or for bedding, which there might not be enough there to justify just dumping it out for bedding. The cows will eat around it, and it'll clean this off. And getting it made mid-September, there isn't going to be a whole lot of regrowth here yet. That by next year, it'll, if we flood, you know, if we get a bunch of snow melt and everything, or just a lot of rain, which I'm not hoping for lots and lots and lots of rain, but it'll hopefully allow this to dry out quicker, because this is still going to collect water. Just nothing I can do about it, and I don't really want to, I'm not in a position to come in and doze this or level this out. But what I'm going to do is, I left the Monder in the 79. I just winterized the sprayer yesterday, but then my intentions are I'm going to come down as close to the hillside as I can. I'm going to do a straight line from back above here, and then go probably the length of this to a certain degree. I already did a bunch of the lower third of this last fall, so I don't have any desire to do it again. But I'm probably going to do this on pretty tight, I'm thinking maybe like a 15-foot center, and just do a bunch of passes from the hillside, clear out through here, through these low spots that are holding water, and I'm hoping that increases my chances. I'll be able to make this in good time next year. If I could make it with ultimate end goal is being able to make this with first cut. That's really what I'd like to see. Probably not going to happen, but if I got to come down and make it a week or two after the fact like I did this year, I mean, so be it. It's not the end of the world. But just being able to do something with it is a huge achievement in itself. And the amount of material that is here, granted, it's not all ideal grasses that you'd want to be making, but it's not really what I seem to do on this channel anyway. It's not ideally what everybody would want to feed their animals, but just the fact that I'm getting some kind of distance with this at all is pretty big. So the growth down here is outside of all this stuff that was made 2 weeks after the fact, but see, we're still isn't until you get clear up to here. Very clear difference from the stuff that I came back down here and made, and then the stuff that was made first cut. No armyworm damage like we had for first crop. I really got gut checked here as far as what I made this year down here, and I'm hoping that the second cut, it looks better than what first cut did, so I'm really grateful in that, which is probably why I'm on pins and needles, just wanting to be sure that I can actually get it made properly and not get a rain on it when we drop it.